Welcome back to Press Here. We were just talking about Amazon, and as you watch the video from inside those Amazon fulfillment centers, you probably noticed those robots. There are so many robots now. Humans at Amazon wear special vests to make them more visible to machines so nobody gets run over. There's an old joke. The workplace of the future will have just one human and one dog. The human is there to feed the dog. The dog is there to keep the human from interfering with the robots. Dogs or not, many economists and sociologists warn the future of work is very uncertain. More and more tasks, blue collar and highly skilled, will be automated at the cost of jobs. But there's a danger of overhyping. We in the media, guilty of overhyping 3D printing. It's important, but so far not the breakthrough that we thought. And robots, not going to replace every job. This is no RoboCop, that is for sure. Avi Reichental thinks a lot about the future. He's a serial entrepreneur and tech evangelist, CEO of XponentialWorks, and a board member of the X Prize. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Good to be here.
You did a TED Talk in 2014 about the same time that we three were hyping up
3D printing.
3D printing. we were comparing it to Star Trek, and hey, you get a cup of tea out of the wall, sort of thing. Did you overhype it, or do you feel comfortable with what you said back in 2014?
Well, I feel good about what I said in 2014. I was wrong about some of the timelines, and I was actually underestimating some of the progress, for example, in 3D printing metals or in medical device. And the reality is that all these technologies, we'll talk about robotics in a minute, get into this deceptive state. And in the same way that we couldn't predict the adoption of mobile devices, right? Once it got going, once it came out of its deceptive state, we missed the predictions every year. Same thing is happening with 3D printing. The same thing is going to happen with robotics. The problem is these are overnight successes that have been decades in the making.
I'm going to come to your defense, Avi. So Carbon just got about
$260 million
in funding.
$2.4 billion in valuation post money.
And the amount of money that's being put into 3D printing is at a record pace this year. It's like almost 700 million. So it does take time. So we'll grant that.
It takes time. Look, I'm personally invested in about 4 early-stage 3D printing companies. I believe that the timing is now. We're finally hitting that inflection point. Follow the money. It's still a tale of two cities in the sense that you have the incumbent, the legacy companies, the real companies with real revenues, like my former company, that are struggling, and you have the Carbons and the Desktop Metals and the Formlabs, right?
People predict what's going to happen in the future, and usually they're off by several years, or they're never right. But I mean, I'm thinking about Mark Andreessen. He talked about Bitcoin. He's like 5 years too early before that hit. So I mean, it does happen.
I think he was 50 years too early on Bitcoin. but I think, I mean, I generally agree with this. But the one thing I wonder is, you get to a certain point and you say, well, which part of this technology aren't working? And so Carbon is polymers, and they've kind of worked that out. Metals, you mentioned metals is really hard.
Metals are really hot.
Is it ever going to work?
It's working, and you can see it. The analog to Carbon 3D in metal is Desktop Metal. They also raised nearly $500 million.
That's why you always see like the dental labs. So that's where the 3D printing is being used.
But you can see it in aerospace. You can see it in automotive. I mean, automotive is under tremendous pressure to lightweight. And they've already taken off the table all the level 1 lightweighting with material substitutions. What are they going to do next? They'll have to use generative design, topology optimization, and additive manufacturing to take more mass out of products, right? And so you can look in all these technologies. And how long have we had AI? For nearly 5 decades. Why is it all of a sudden ubiquitous? Because we finally have the infinite computing power, right, in the cloud, and ubiquitous connectivity and lots of data. And all of a sudden, these algorithms that have been there forever are monetizable and disruptive.
So if we've established that we may have hyped 3D printing earlier, but maybe now is the age of 3D printing, let's pivot and talk about my second point, which is the future of jobs, AI and robotics and whatnot. We often see articles, or we write articles about, the future of people's jobs. Yes. I know Stanford is studying it. I know some people worry tremendously about it. What's your take on it, and are we in danger of then overhyping the robot?
I'm worried about it. And I'm excited about it at the same time. I'm worried about it because I think that we are tripping all over ourselves to obsolete every part of repetitive tasking that we can think of, right? I mean, look at Uber
Well, that's what
and
robots
Lyft.
do well.
They do it extremely well. AI does it extremely well as well. So it's not just limited to mechanization. Think about the tax preparers. Think about people that are
Right.
in cash in transit and crypto technologies. All of it is going to get disruptive. I think that the challenge that we have is the timing. I'm worried that disruption will happen en masse ahead of creating abundance on the other side. Are we going to have in our lifetimes a situation where we collaborate with robotics all over the place and create more jobs? Yes, but the moment that long distance freight gets disrupted and you don't have drivers, or it's the end of car ownership as we know it.
I've only got a short, quick, but so let me go ahead and squeeze that one in.
Well, yeah, my question was simply going to be when you think about this in manufacturing, and we think about how automation and robotics are changing that. What we see is humans and machines working together. Let's automate this bit, automate that bit. The real opportunity, though, is to automate an entire process or a whole cell where a person is working.
And it's happening on miracle growth. I mean, you look at companies like Universal Robotics, that can't make enough of these systems because they're inexpensive, they show up to work every day, and they're reliable. And you can give them more and more tasks because they're self-taught. So I am worried about the timing of disruption versus the creation of abundance and what happens to jobs in the interim. And I think that here in Silicon Valley, we ought to think of how can we be part of that solution.
My commercial system is run by jukebox robots that pull out the commercials.
I noticed that.
And it's on a timer, and it's counting down. So Avi Reichental with XponentialWorks, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Press here will be back in just a minute.